When people speak of Saint Michael the Archangel, they often remember only one image: the warrior, the commander of heaven's armies, the one who cast Lucifer down and crushed the rebellion of demons. They recall his sword, his strength, his victory. They remember the great apparition at Monte Gargano in the year 708, when Saint Michael revealed himself as the defender of God's people and the terror of hell. Yet there is another role, far less spoken of, a role quieter, more solemn, and infinitely closer to the destiny of every human soul. Saint Michael is not only the angel of battle, he is also the guide of souls after death. He stands at the threshold where life ends and eternity begins, at the narrow passage between breath and judgment, between mercy offered and choice revealed. Scripture and tradition tell us of his authority over demons, but history records little of his countless silent interventions, moments not written in books, not carved into stone, not proclaimed from pulpits. Moments when he comes not with thunder, but with presence, not to fight at first, but to lead. Tonight's story is not drawn from an official chronicle or a recorded apparition. Instead, it reveals a truth long known by the Church, that Saint Michael continues his work unseen, guiding souls, confronting evil, and standing witness at the most decisive hour of human existence. What you are about to hear is one such moment, a moment when a soul believed the journey was over, only to discover that the final trial had just begun. Before this story continues, we invite you to pause for just a moment. If there is a soul you wish to pray for, a loved one, a forgotten priest, a victim of war, or someone who died without comfort, please write their name in the comments below. We will personally offer Mass intentions for these souls, and we ask you to unite your prayer with ours. Let this story not only be heard, but become a prayer for those who can no longer speak for themselves.
The moment did not arrive with thunder. It came quietly, like a candle flame trembling before it goes out. The woman lay still, her breathing shallow and uneven, each breath thinner than the last. Her life had been ordinary, not marked by greatness, not stained by open scandal. She had believed in God, she had prayed at times, especially when fear pressed close. She had carried faith like a small lamp, real, but often dimmed by routine, fatigue, and unspoken compromises. Around her bed, the living gathered. Hands clutched one another. Tears fell freely. Voices broke as they whispered her name again and again, as if sound alone could anchor her to the world she was leaving. Some begged her to stay. Some promised things that could no longer be kept. All of them feared the silence they felt approaching. And then it happened. Her final breath slipped away, so softly that no one noticed it at first. But she did. In an instant, pain vanished. The weight of her body was gone. She felt light, strangely alert, as though she had awakened from a long and difficult sleep. She tried to speak, but no words came. She tried to move, yet the world did not respond as it once had. Below her, she saw her own body lying still, the faces of her loved ones twisted in grief. The room echoed with sobs she could no longer touch. Confusion flooded her. She did not understand what had happened. She felt no fire, no judgment, no punishment, only separation. A growing awareness dawned upon her, fragile, terrifying, and undeniable. She was no longer among the living. Yet her heart, her memories, Her desires still clung desperately to the world she had known, and as she hovered between what was and what awaited, uncertain and unprepared, the greatest mistake of all remained hidden from her. She believed the journey had ended, when in truth it had only just begun.
The darkness did not deepen. Instead, light appeared. Not sudden, not blinding, not the fierce blaze of judgment she had feared. It was gentle, steady, and deliberate, as if it had always been waiting for her to notice it. The light did not accuse, it did not expose, it did not burn away her defenses. It simply revealed a presence. From within that radiance, Saint Michael emerged. He did not arrive in fury. He did not raise his sword. There was no battle cry, no thunder beneath his steps. His armor shone with a quiet authority, etched with signs of victory long settled. His wings did not beat the air. They rested, folded in calm restraint. This was not the archangel of war. This was the guide. He stood before her without hostility, his gaze clear and unwavering, carrying neither condemnation nor indulgence. And yet, she knew instantly who he was. A deep certainty settled within her, the kind that does not require explanation. Fear loosened its grip. The chaos of her thoughts grew still. For the first time since her final breath, peace entered her awareness, warm, reassuring, almost tender. Saint Michael did not speak at once. His silence itself was an invitation. The woman felt drawn toward him, as though his presence formed a path she was meant to follow. Relief washed over her. She had believed. She had tried. She had lived decently. Surely this was the moment she had waited for, the passage into heaven. A quiet confidence rose within her, not born of pride, but of assumption. She believed her struggles were finished, that the weight of her choices had passed, that whatever remained would be resolved without resistance. Saint Michael turned, and with a subtle gesture indicated the way forward. The woman followed without hesitation. She did not look back, she did not question, and she did not yet realize that guidance is not the same as arrival, and that the path ahead still passed through truth before it reached light. Saint Michael moved forward, and the space around them shifted. The room she had known, the walls, the bed, the grieving faces, began to dissolve, not violently, but as mist fades beneath morning light. The woman followed. She did not walk with feet, yet she moved. She did not feel wind, yet motion surrounded her. The world of the living slipped away with a softness that made it all the more painful. Instinctively she turned back. Below her, her family remained. She saw hands gripping the lifeless body that had once been hers. She saw faces contorted with grief, voices calling her name in disbelief and despair. Each tear felt like a thread pulling at her heart. She wanted to reach them, to comfort them, to tell them she was still near, but no sound crossed the distance. Memories rushed toward her, not in order, not gently. Moments of laughter around a table, unfinished conversations, words withheld out of fear or pride, small choices that had seemed insignificant at the time. Then came the ache of what she had loved most, the warmth of routine, the familiarity of ordinary days, the comfort of things she had never thought to release. She realized with a sudden clarity that letting go was not simple, not even for the faithful, not even for those who believed in eternity. Saint Michael slowed. He did not force her forward. He did not rebuke her for looking back. His presence allowed her sorrow, but did not permit it to rule. The woman felt the tension within her, a pull in two directions.
one toward the known world, heavy with attachment and regret, the other toward an unknown horizon, bright yet demanding. This longing was not sin, it was human. To love life is natural, to grieve its loss is unavoidable. Even the saints, tradition tells us, felt the sting of departure. Yet as the journey continued, a truth began to press upon her heart. What is loved must eventually be released, not because it was meaningless, but because eternity cannot be entered with hands still clutched to dust. And though Saint Michael led her with patience, the path itself asked a silent question. Would she carry her attachments forward, or finally lay them down before they became chains?
They did not rush forward. They did not roar, nor did they surround her in violence. Instead, they appeared where the path narrowed. Shadows took form, not sudden, not chaotic, but deliberate, almost restrained. They stood in silence, blocking the way ahead. Their presence carried no heat, no frenzy, no uncontrolled hatred. It was colder than that. Their voices, when they finally spoke, were calm, measured, disturbingly composed. This soul does not yet belong to heaven. The words were not shouted, they were stated as one would state a fact already settled. The woman felt her peace fracture. She recoiled instinctively, a fear rising not from terror, but from recognition. These beings did not argue like criminals, they spoke like prosecutors. Saint Michael did not move. He did not raise his sword. He did not answer at once. His stillness carried authority. The demons continued, their forms shifting subtly, never fully solid, never fully smoke. "We do not claim her by force," one of them said. "We claim her by consent." The word struck her like a blow. Consent. They did not accuse her of a life of wickedness. They did not parade her failures in spectacle. Instead, they spoke of something smaller and far more dangerous. "There was a moment," another voice murmured, "when she knew. A moment when truth stood close, and she chose silence." The woman tried to speak. No words came. Memories stirred, not distant, but sharp and recent. A final hour, a familiar fear, a choice postponed. Saint Michael's gaze remained fixed on the path ahead, yet she felt that nothing had escaped his notice. The demons did not advance. They did not need to. They had placed doubt where peace had been. They had interrupted the journey without lifting a claw. And for the first time since her death, the woman understood something deeply unsettling. The greatest obstacles on the road to heaven do not always appear as attacks. Sometimes they simply stand still and wait for truth to catch up with the soul walking toward the light.
The demons did not describe the sin. They did not need to. No images were summoned, no details exposed, no shame paraded before the light. Because the woman already knew. The knowledge rose within her, quiet, undeniable, and heavy. It had not been a misunderstanding, not ignorance, not confusion dressed as innocence. She had known. She had recognized the moment when her conscience spoke clearly, when truth pressed close and asked for courage. She had felt the weight of it then, the sharp awareness that something was broken, that something required confession, that grace was waiting on the other side of humility. And she had been given time, more than once. There had been opportunities, moments when the door stood open, when forgiveness was near enough to touch. But fear had intervened.
fear of exposure, fear of judgment, fear of disturbing a fragile peace she had constructed for herself. So she had negotiated, not aloud, but within her heart. Later, she had thought, when things are calmer, when I am stronger, when it feels safer. The demons spoke again, their voices low and precise. She did not deny God, one said. She did not reject mercy, another added. She delayed it. The word echoed painfully. Delayed. She had not chosen darkness outright. She had chosen comfort over truth, silence over surrender. And in that silence, something had hardened. Now, standing between light and shadow, she felt the full weight of that decision, not magnified, not exaggerated, but exactly as it was. St. Michael turned toward her at last. His gaze was not condemning, it was clear. "You knew," he said, not as accusation, but as fact. The woman trembled. She understood now that the danger of mortal sin was not only in the act itself, but in the will that refuses to release it. Mercy had not been absent from her life. It had waited patiently. But mercy, she realized too late, does not force itself upon a guarded heart. And as the truth settled fully within her, she saw with piercing clarity that compromise at the final hour is not neutrality. It is a choice, and choices endure beyond death.
The scene shifted, and time folded back upon itself. The woman found herself once more in the final minutes of her earthly life. Her body lay weak and exhausted, each breath shallow, each heartbeat uncertain. The room was quiet, too quiet. Fear crept in, not the fear of death itself, but the fear of exposure. She remembered the awareness clearly now, the sharp realization that something remained unresolved, a truth she had carried silently, a sin she had named within herself, yet never allowed. Her conscience had spoken gently, without accusation. Now, it had said, this is the moment. But fear answered first. What if I am judged? What if I am misunderstood? What if this changes how I am seen? Then came the whisper. Not loud, not threatening, almost reasonable. You can deal with this later. The voice did not deny God. It did not mock faith. It did not call sin good. It only postponed truth. There is no need to trouble yourself now, it murmured. You are weak. You have suffered enough. God understands. The woman felt relief wash over her, not the peace of grace, but the comfort of avoidance. She did not argue with the voice. She did not rebuke it. She simply allowed it. That was the moment. No words were spoken, no action taken, no scandal committed, only a decision of the will, quiet, internal, and decisive. She chose not to choose. She chose silence. She told herself that intention was enough, that regret without confession would suffice, that mercy would fill the gap where courage failed. But intention without surrender has no weight before eternity. Now, reliving that moment, she felt the truth pierce her without cruelty. The compromise had not been forced upon her, it had been accepted. The demons had not dragged her hand, they had simply offered delay, and she had taken it.
In that final hour, when grace stood closest and fear stood loudest, she had protected her pride instead of her soul. The memory dissolved, leaving her trembling between light and shadow. She understood now that the final battle of a human life is rarely fought with dramatic gestures. It is fought in silence, in hesitation, in the will that chooses comfort over the vulnerability of truth. And as the echo of that whispered promise faded, "You can deal with this later," she realized with aching clarity, later had never been promised. Only now, and now had passed.
The space around them grew still. No chains appeared. No flames rose. No cries were heard. The demons did not rush forward. They stood with unsettling composure, their presence cold but controlled, as though this moment required no force. One stepped ahead, not snarling, not shouting, but speaking with measured certainty. "This soul is not ours by theft," it said. "We are ours by consent." The words struck deeper than any weapon. They did not accuse her of ignorance. They did not claim she had never known God. They did not deny her prayers, her acts of kindness, her moments of faith. Instead, they presented a simple truth. She knew. The air seemed to tighten. She knew the weight of her sin, the voice continued, not vaguely, not confusedly, but clearly. Images flickered briefly before her, moments when conscience stirred, moments when grace knocked quietly at the door of her heart. She had time. Not years alone, but real opportunities, moments offered precisely for reconciliation. A word spoken, a confession made, a surrender accepted. The demon's tone remained calm, almost judicial. But she chose silence. There was no triumph in their voice, only certainty. She did not forget. She did not misunderstand. She did not lack access to mercy. She postponed it. The demons turned their gaze toward St. Michael, not with challenge, but with expectation. "We did not overpower her will," they said. "We respected it." The woman felt no accusation sharper than that. For the first time she understood why there was no violence in this claim. Hell, she realized, does not always seize. Sometimes it simply waits. The demons had not needed to lie. They had only needed patience. They concluded with a final declaration, spoken not in anger, but in finality. She stood at the door of grace and chose not to open it. The silence that followed was heavy, as if the universe itself acknowledged the logic of the claim. The woman lowered her gaze, not in defiance, but in recognition. This was not a judgment imposed from outside. It was the echo of a decision made in the quiet of a dying heart. And now, that decision stood before eternity, unadorned, undeniable, awaiting response.
Saint Michael did not raise his sword. He did not step forward in anger. He did not answer accusation with accusation. Instead, he spoke, and when he did, the space itself seemed to listen. His voice carried no heat of emotion, only the weight of truth. "Mercy was present," he said calmly, "from the beginning." The demons did not interrupt. "Mercy followed her through her life," St. Michael continued,
not once, but many times. He did not deny their claim. He did not soften it. Yes, he said, she knew. Yes, she had time. Yes, she understood the gravity of what she carried within her soul. The woman trembled, not from fear, but from the clarity of his words. "But hear this," St. Michael said, and his voice deepened, not louder, but firmer. "Mercy does not cancel freedom." The light around him grew steadier, not brighter, as though illumination itself required no display. "God's mercy is not forced upon the soul," he said. "It is offered." He turned his gaze toward the woman. "You were not abandoned," he said to her. "You were not denied grace. Grace stood before you and waited for your consent." St. Michael then turned back to the demons. "You speak of choice," he said, "and on this you speak truth. But do not confuse mercy with indulgence," he continued, "nor patience with permission." His words cut cleanly, not to wound, but to define. Mercy does not erase consequence, and justice does not deny compassion. They exist together, inseparable. The woman felt something shift within her, a painful understanding, yet strangely pure. St. Michael concluded, his voice unwavering, "The soul is judged not by the length of its prayers, nor by the appearance of faith, but by the final orientation of its will." The silence that followed was not empty. It was filled with meaning. St. Michael had not spoken to win an argument. He had spoken to reveal reality. And reality, once revealed, could no longer be escaped, only faced. The judgment had not yet been sealed. No final word had been spoken, no destination declared. And in that narrow space between mercy offered and choice exposed, the demons moved. They did not roar, they did not rush blindly. Their attack came like a tightening shadow, a pressure upon truth itself. "This moment is ours," they said, their voices overlapping yet coldly precise. "Indecision favors us." The air grew heavy. The woman felt herself pulled, not violently, but persistently, as if doubt itself had hands. That was when St. Michael stepped forward. For the first time, he drew his sword. It was not forged of metal alone. Its blade burned with a light that did not flicker, a clarity that cut through illusion. When the sword left its sheath, the darkness recoiled, not because of force, but because lies cannot endure light. The demons struck. They hurled memories twisted by accusation, moments of weakness magnified, fear reshaped into destiny, silence presented as irrevocable choice. "See," they whispered to the woman, "this is who you truly are." St. Michael moved, not with rage, but with precision. Each strike of his sword did not wound flesh, it shattered falsehood. Where the blade passed, distortions dissolved, excuses fell away, self-deception cracked. This was not a battle of strength, it was a battle of truth. The demons pressed closer, their forms shifting, not to terrify, but to confuse. "Mercy is too late," they hissed. "Your hesitation has already spoken." St. Michael answered, not with words, but with light. The sword rose, and with it came a radiance that revealed everything as it was. No exaggeration, no concealment. Under that light, the demons faltered, because lies require shadows. The woman stood at the center of the clash, her soul exposed, not humiliated, but unveiled. She saw clearly now the difference between regret and repentance, between fear and surrender, between delay and refusal. Saint Michael held the line, not advancing, not retreating. He was not fighting to overpower the demons. He was fighting to preserve the truth long enough for the soul to see it. The clash echoed without sound, light against distortion, reality against deceit. And in that suspended moment, everything depended on one thing. Not the strength of the angels, not the claims of the demons, but what the soul would choose now that nothing was hidden anymore.
The battle did not pull the soul apart by force. It revealed what was already divided within her. She felt herself stretched between two directions, not as a body, but as a will. One pull came from above. It was not loud, not urgent, not demanding. It was gentle, steady, unmistakably pure. Heaven did not seize her, it waited. The other pull came from behind, from the weight of what she had loved on earth. Faces she still clung to, moments she refused to release. Comfort, control, unfinished desires, not all evil in themselves, but claimed by sin when held too tightly. She realized something that struck deeper than fear. God had not pushed her away. He had never withdrawn his mercy. The door had remained open. What trembled now was her own hand on the threshold. She remembered how often she had told herself that faith could wait, that surrender could come later, that letting go was something for another day. Even at the end, she had wanted heaven, but on her terms. And now the truth stood naked before her. You cannot love heaven while clutching what binds you to sin. Saint Michael did not pull her forward. He did not command her to choose. His presence simply made one thing undeniable. God does not compete with idols. The demons sensed her hesitation and leaned closer, not with threats, but with familiarity. "Why let go?" they whispered. "These things were your life. They made you feel alive." And for a moment, she felt the ache of loss before the loss had even happened. Letting go felt like dying again. Heaven, by contrast, felt unknown, beautiful, but frightening in its purity. To enter it, she would have to release every excuse, every attachment, every hidden compromise. She would have to trust completely. And that was the wound she had carried all along. Not rebellion, not hatred of God, but the refusal to surrender fully. Tears, not of the eyes, but of the soul, rose within her. For the first time she understood. God was not asking her to give up joy. He was asking her to let go of what could never save her. She stood between two loves, one familiar but fading, promising comfort while offering chains, the other demanding everything, yet offering life without end. And in that fragile stillness, she knew the truth she could no longer avoid. The greatest danger at the hour of death is not that God will refuse us, but that we will still be holding on to what cannot follow us into eternity.
No sentence was spoken. No verdict echoed through the space. There was no declaration of heaven, no proclamation of hell. And yet, judgment unfolded. Not through words, but through movement. The light did not vanish. It did not dim in anger or withdraw in rejection. It simply began to recede, slowly, silently, as light does when one turns away from it. Saint Michael did not block the path. He did not step aside in defeat. He remained, unchanging, steady, truth itself, standing firm.
but the distance between the soul and the light grew wider. Not because the light moved quickly, but because hesitation has weight. Every moment of delay felt heavier than the one before. Behind her, darkness did not rush forward. It waited, patient, certain. It had no need to shout or seize. It knew the power of unresolved choice. The soul felt the ache of separation, not as punishment, but as consequence. The farther the light drifted, the clearer the truth became. Eternity is not entered by accident, nor is it lost by a single word. It is approached or abandoned by the direction of the will. She reached out, not with hands, but with longing. Yet longing alone could not bridge the distance. Desire without surrender remained incomplete. The silence pressed in, not empty, full. Full of what could have been said, full of what could still be chosen, yet was slipping away. St. Michael's gaze never left her. There was sorrow in it, not weakness, but clarity. Justice had not crushed mercy. Mercy had not erased justice. They stood together, unaltered. And in that stillness, the soul understood something terrible and true. God does not need to pronounce judgment. The soul itself moves towards what it loves most. As the light withdrew further and the darkness remained open, the truth settled like an unspoken sentence. Eternity is not decided by force. It is revealed by direction. St. Michael did not speak. No words were needed. He turned, not toward the soul, but toward those still bound by breath and time, toward the living. His gaze crossed the veil that separates eternity from the present moment, and in that gaze was a truth more severe than any warning spoken aloud. There was no anger in his eyes, no threat, no condemnation, only clarity. The scene behind him remained frozen, light held at a distance, darkness waiting without haste. And in that stillness, the message became unmistakable. The boundary is thin, not distant, not dramatic, not reserved for the wicked. Thin. It is crossed not by grand rebellion, but by small delays, not by shouting no to God, but by whispering later. St. Michael's silence spoke of countless final hours, bedsides where time ran out quietly, souls weighed not by crimes, but by unresolved choices. He showed no images of fire, no visions of glory. He revealed something far more unsettling: how close eternity always is, especially at the hour of death, when excuses fall away and only the orientation of the heart remains. The living felt the weight of it, not as fear, but as responsibility. The angel's presence declared a truth that could not be softened. No one dies neutral. Every soul departs facing a direction, toward surrender or toward self. St. Michael did not plead. He did not urge. He simply stood as witness to what is always true, but rarely remembered. Grace is generous, but time is not. And the greatest tragedy is not to fall suddenly. It is to stand at the threshold of eternity, still holding on to what must be released. In his silence, St. Michael left the living with a warning more piercing than words. Do not wait until the final hour to choose what you love most. At the hour of death, attachment is not a failure of faith, it is human. The living cling to those they love, fearing absence, silence, loss.
The dying cling to life itself, to memories, to faces, to what once made the world feel solid beneath their feet. And even the soul that departs may still look back with longing. This is not condemned, it is understood. But there is a danger hidden within that longing. Attachment becomes a chain when sin is allowed to disguise itself as comfort, as fear, as delay. What condemns the soul is not love for life, but compromise with darkness, not weakness, but refusal to release what cannot pass into eternity. Do not let sin blind the heart at the most decisive moment. Do not allow fear to negotiate on your behalf. No one loses eternal life because they were fragile. It is lost when the soul chooses silence over truth, delay over surrender. This is why the Church calls, not to terror, but to mercy embraced in time. Confession is not humiliation, it is liberation. Repentance is not defeat, it is the return home before night falls. And prayer, especially for the dying and the dead, is not symbolic, it is an act of love that reaches beyond the grave. If there is a soul you remember, one who died suddenly, one who died afraid, one who died alone, do not assume their story is finished. Pray. Entrust them to God's mercy, which is deeper than our understanding and stronger than our fear. And for yourself, do not wait for the final hour to loosen your grip on what must be released. Choose God while there is still time to choose freely, because eternity is not decided by what we intended to do someday, but by what we finally choose when the door stands open.